Hello, beautiful alchemist. Welcome to Reiki Radio. I am your host, Yolanda. And as always, we have a very interesting conversation for you today. In fact, our guest is going to share with us, we'll say, a certain technique and practice that we've never talked about on Reiki Radio before. So you are in for a treat. We have a lot of fun in this conversation. Our guest's name is Hillis Pugh, and Hillis is a Lemurian lineage teacher, and he serves as an Omni Resonance Architect. And the point of his work is really to help people return to unity consciousness and helping people remember who and what they are. So, as I mentioned, we haven't had this conversation on Reiki Radio before. So I asked him all the things I would think you would want to know on top of what I wanted to know. So we talk a lot about Lemuria, which he also refers to as Mu. We talk about what this has to do with us and where we are today. So there's quite a bit of conversation about our connection to ancient civilizations and what it means to really work on our frequencies and why we do this and what we have access to. There's just so much wrapped up in this conversation, and I hope you really do enjoy it. So, Hillis does have a special offer for our listeners, which you can access down in the show description. You will also find the links to connect with him through his website, his Substack, and the teachings and the sessions that he offers. So all of that can be found down in the show description on the other side of this. I also want to let you know, if you happen to be in Florida, Hillis does have some upcoming events. He will be doing a live event on October 4th at Delray Beach in Florida for an event put on by a organization called Healerverse. And then in November, he will be in Fort Lauderdale for a live event through an organization called One Hand. And he will tell you all about that at the end of the show. So if you are in Florida and want to check him out, be sure to go to his website for more information. That aside, Oracle School is wrapping up. So if you want to join me for the class that is coming out in October, or if you are interested in joining me for Intuitive Mastery, which begins in November, be sure to go to theenergeticalchemist.com to register today. And if you want to spend the entire year with me with our mentoring program called the Alchemy Circle, that includes your access and your ability to join Intuitive Mastery that starts this year in November. So if you've been thinking about Alchemy Circle, now is the time to register for next year so you can join me for Intuitive Mastery in November. All of that is on the website. I look forward to seeing you all and working with you. Now let's get into this episode. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, everyone, we're here today with the incredible Hillis Pugh. And Hillis, I am so excited to have this conversation because your work is very interesting. And I think a lot of listeners can learn so much from the nature of your work and the point of focus and what you study. So I want to say, first of all, just thank you for coming in, having this conversation today.
Thank you. I mean, to connect with a beautiful soul such as yourself and part of the soul family, and doing the work that we do to elevate the consciousness, the collective consciousness, to be more specific.
Yes.
And for us to step into this resonance, this vibratory frequency, to connect this infinite thread that is all of us, which is part of the reason why I do the work that I do as an Omni Resonance Architect, because for a while, people who've known me, people who follow me for a while, they know that I've always talked about oneness. But now I'm beginning to really step into it and embrace that because, honestly, I was afraid to talk about, tell people that you're God and that you have this energy, this omnipotent energy within you, that you are God. And because of the community, not just the Reiki community, also Black culture and so forth and so on, there was this fear of backlash. Well, if I say, well, if I'm God, and I've been saying it for years, it's like I am God. And if I'm God, that means you're God too. People's like, what do you mean? You can't be God. There's no way. I'm like, think about it. If you are your mother's child, if you are your father's child, what does that make you? You know,
Hmm.
if you are the spawn of the creator, what does that make you? A piece of the creator, a piece of your family, a piece. So you're essentially a piece, a fragmented piece of this grand energy that created this all. And so if you have trouble comprehending that, let's sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you bring this up because this is um, I want to say a big challenge for a lot of people because on one hand, we'll hear things such as, commonly in the yoga community, people say namaste, which is to say the divine in me acknowledges the divine in you. People
Exactly.
talk a lot about oneness and us all being interconnected. But
Hmm.
like you say, there is also this resistance to, well, what does that really mean? If we're all expressions of divine intelligence, either we are or we're not. But there is so much that has been fed into our consciousness for so many reasons. I think of why people have a challenge, but you bring up a good point of if we're all of this, then what does that really mean that you are? What are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this has been a question that we all have have. And this is the reason why I am moving in this direction with my work as a psychic medium, as a Reiki practitioner, as a Sirian-Lemurian light energy practitioner, and looking at indigenous cultures, looking at Indian cultures, looking at what the Egyptians were doing thousands of years ago. Everyone has the same root in what they do.
Yeah.
It's just all done, maybe just a fractionally different,
Right.
but it all goes back to the same thing. And this is what being omni is. I mean, you and with and even dare I say with religion as well,
Hmm.
there are hundreds, thousands of various religions across this planet, and yet they all talk about the one thing, but it's just how we get there. Like many masters have said, many leaders have said, we are on parallel paths, we are on different paths, but we are all going back to the same source.
Right.
And so when you truly begin to understand that, regardless of the cultural differences, the racial differences, the sexual and gender differences,
Yeah.
nothing else really matters outside of that.
It's interesting too, you say, because I think a lot of us really have this hopefulness or wish or vision of the possibility that we could return to awareness of one and that we all honor and respect the divine as expressed in all. And I think of how people have such a reverence for, like Mother Earth, or people have such a reverence and appreciation for animals. But I think
Hmm.
it's hard for us to maybe sometimes claim that for ourselves because we see the behavior of other humans. And so I think it's a hard thing for people to wrap their minds around.
Yeah.
But I'm again, I'm glad we're having this conversation because that's why I think all of these teachings, like you say, they point back to you have to recognize it in yourself. Because if you're just looking out at the world, yeah, you'll be in denial because you'll say this makes no sense.
Yeah,
But if I
exactly.
can discover it within myself now we're on to something. So we're gonna come back to that because that's huge, Hillis. But I want to ask you about as well because a big part of your work you do Lemurian light work, and
Yes.
I think a lot of us have heard, even if we don't know much about like Lemuria and Atlantis and these ancient civilizations that essentially disappeared, but the teachings have been passed on in various ways. And now a lot of people will even channel or however it's been preserved. Could you talk a little bit about, first of all, what is Lemuria from your understanding? What was this place? And what about that time could help us now?
So there are many theories about Lemuria, or in some cases, Mu. You know, I interchange between Mu and Lemuria. They're the same
Yes.
in terms of wording.
Yep.
They're the same in terms of energetic presence. They're the same in what they have brought to the planet. And so, what makes Lemuria slash Mu very different because it was the first.
Yeah.
And the reason why I choose the phrasing Sirian-Lemurian light energy is because the Syrians were the first to come to arrive to seed the planet. I know people often talk about the Anunnaki, this race, the Palladians, all these races.
Yep.
You know, doesn't matter. You know, whatever extraterrestrial presence you believe in, you know, Syrians, you know, were part of the first to arrive here. And what they brought was with a teaching to assist in sustaining the human vessel, the life.
Mm.
And so these teachings were passed down to humans, to humanity. And with that energy, they were also preserved in Lemurian crystals, which is why those are the crystals that I work with,
Mm.
primarily those. And in that energy contain the wisdom to assist in nurturing and bringing forth divine love, divine healing, so to speak, divine nurturing energy for those who seek it, for those who ask for it, for those who want to step into that space of remembrance, remembers who they are, remembers of their soul. And that's what makes what I do very different and important because I assist people in that space of remembering their soul. I assist people in clearing the trauma. And the reason why the Lemurian energy is so potent because it is connected to the galactic frequency of Sirius,
Yeah.
A, B, and C. And this energy was not only preserved through the Dogon tribe, it was also preserved through the settlements that was created after the destruction of Mu. Settlements in North America, settlements in South America, what we call North and South America now, also preserved in the teachings of Japan, also preserved in the teachings of parts of India, because the Nocto Brotherhood, the Brotherhood of the Nocto, the sacred text of Mu, this was preserved on stone tablets for us to utilize and give this knowledge to others to be of great service because anyone who asks, the information is readily there for you to receive.
Let me tell you something. You have my mind just firing off right now, Hillis. Okay. I'm taking notes. I'm trying to take notes so I don't forget everything you're saying. Because you're saying, again, a lot of things I think are so important for us, especially at these times, to have consideration of. So, one, when you speak of Sirius, and it's funny, I smiled because I was thinking also about the Dogum tribe. And a lot of people haven't heard of them. So, I just want to say, if you haven't, of course, you can Google as your friend, but there's this African tribe who already had the
The
stars,
knowledge,
the knowledge, they
the
had it
star
laid out,
charts, the wisdom.
everything
Yeah.
before we had the technology to be able to even see Sirius. Was it B or yeah,
Yes. A,
Sirius
B,
B?
and C.
Yes,
And Sirius C, the dwarf, the smallest one of them all, was confirmed in the 1990s.
right. But this
That was the
tribe,
last
they
one.
knew
Yeah.
before. And
Yeah.
so, when explorers came and these, people in this tribe had this all drawn out and laid out, they weren't believed because it seemed impossible. How would they know this? And then when we on Earth had the technology and
Hmm.
realized that they were right, and
Yeah.
they say it was the star beings, their star brothers, who came and
Yeah.
taught them. And to this day, that tribe still celebrates. They have
Yeah.
celebrations of. So it's very fascinating, for anyone curious. But I want to talk to you now about the encoding,
Yeah.
because this is what's so interesting. You mentioned the Lemurian crystals and the information stored within them. And
Yes.
then we often kind of glaze over, like how there's encoding of our own ancestral DNA and imprints from other lifetimes, and why people feel drawn and called to certain things, right? So,
Hmm.
can we talk a little bit about this? Because, you know, it's weird how we have like a split mind around this. On one hand, things that we don't understand, we think like it's impossible, it sounds crazy. But on the other hand, we'll say things that actually validate that exact same thing. So
Exactly.
could you talk a little bit about like your point of view around how energetically information, like how we know energy can't die, but how information is available for us in these different frequencies, whether crystals are,
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
yes.
So let's look at it from the perspective of you are a novice.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea of any information, no clue, but you're curious.
Yeah.
And so looking at it from this perspective, you go see someone who piqued your curiosity about yourself. You go have a reading or a QHHT session, which is a past life regression session for those who don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And you receive this abundance of information about your past life.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you receive information about your past life, it validates the vibration and resonance that you have towards certain things. For example, with me, in this particular life lineage that I've incarnated in, my soul lineage has chosen to remember aspects of when I was a Hollywood actor, aspects of when I was a prophet in one life, aspects of me being a slave in another life, aspects of me being a priestess in another.
Mm-hmm.
So these, so we don't have complete amnesia. We have glimpses of references to draw upon and bring that energy forward into this life.
Yeah.
And so then when we have these remembrances and coupled with the moments of physical and emotional deja vu in this life, we then begin to draw things to us, whether it's crystals. And then that DNA, the energy, because crystals have a consciousness, crystals have DNA. Once we have that, once we hold that, and sometimes these are implements, tools that we had in one life.
Right.
So thousands of years, the crystal could have been buried, and a piece of this giant, massive crystal broke off, and now is in the mind, and people are uncovering it. And so when we receive it, you hold it. It's like there's a familiarity about this vibrational resonance,
Yeah.
and so this is with everything. So it brings the space of remembrance. So remembering that specific time when you worked with this, it brings the memory of that specific life or remembrance of these moments.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what the resonance and the frequency does by working with specific tools. And even when you allow yourself to venture within self in a meditation, and I say meditation loosely, but what is actually happening is a soul transmission with your higher teams,
Yeah.
with people, with yourself, with your soul. And then this really brings to the awareness of what truly is conscious or not.
Yeah.
And now you're going to have me go on another tangent, but I'm going to stop there.
Okay. Yeah, please just pause because you seriously, you're saying things that, there's a lot to unpack. And so I I think it's fascinating again because a lot of people are drawn to crystals. And you think about how many people are having these experiences,
Yeah,
especially now that we're in a time where people are feeling more comfortable to actually say, yes, I work with crystals. And when I do, I can recognize the
yeah,
information from the crystals. I recognize the frequencies, the feelings, the visions, the downloads that come. But so you're bringing me back to again, like what was downloaded, the information, right? And you mentioned how in Lemuria, aka Mu, that,
hmm,
the beings from Sirius came with, sacred teachings for us.
yes,
And then just for people who may be still like, I don't know, this is kind of far out,
hmm,
let's bring it a little more into the history of what is we'll say more present and within the collective consciousness, and
yeah,
that we can see these temples, like in Egypt and South America and Asia, all around the world,
Yeah.
these incredible temples that were built by ancient civilizations that
Yes.
even with our modern technology, we can't replicate. So even things like this, when you look
Right.
at what did they know? What did
Right.
they understand? Who are they in contact with?
Right. And so what I want to pause in a moment because what's interesting about what I'm about to say, real-time information, okay, that I'm going to
Yeah.
present here. So we often hear the word download,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Information that was downloaded into us,
Right.
okay? There's no way information can be downloaded into you, okay? I'm going to say that again.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way information can be downloaded into you. This is just a collective term that has been created to allow for these happenings and reception of information easier and more digestible. The truth of this is, and I'm going to, for example, here, my very first Lemurian crystal golden healer, okay? What truly occurs in these moments is a frequency shift, a resonance shift, a vibrational shift. And when we allow ourselves to be open to these vibrational shifts in frequencies, we can then receive that information that is already living within us. We yet again remember the information because it's already there. Because you have to understand, as beings, as vibrational beings that carry the mass of history within us, trillion bits of data in our bodies,
Yeah.
most of which we don't know. And these tools assist us in remembering that. And so there's never a download, it's always a shift in frequency. And going to even answer your question even more, so if anyone has Netflix, I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
And one of my shows that I watched is Ancient Apocalypse with the Graham, I can't think of his last name. And so there was an episode that he did on specific symbols and how symbols move and carry throughout the universe, throughout the land. And so I think season 2 aired about the time I was reading the third book of James Church's Ward's books on the books of Mu. And he was showing specific symbols and shapes all across South America, specifically Amazon rainforest, that portion. And he was showing basic symbols, squares, shapes, rectangles, circles, all these things. But but I knew what I was looking at because I read the book. And so all of these shapes and symbols was a reference to Mu. So that information is still being carried through generations. But what surprised me the most, if we want to talk about current events in modern times, of this information being transferred, you look no further than the Hopi, the indigenous tribe. And it was probably about maybe 2.5 years ago, I think it was the Oscars, and there was a drum circle on TV. And mind you, I don't watch any of these award shows. I stopped that, years ago, but it just happens to be on TV for me to see this.
Yeah.
And mind you, yet again, there's no coincidence that I saw this shortly after I finished the first book in the series. And drum circle on the stage, red lights. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is cool. And camera is pan directly on stage. Giant drum. And the camera begins to pan up and over the drum. And I see this red rectangle.
Mm.
And the red rectangle is a symbol of Mu.
Mm.
But you talked about carrying information and wisdom through generations.
Right.
That's proof positive for me to know that this information is being carried. And when you step into that vibrational resonance,
Mm-hmm.
you allow for yourself to receive that.
Yeah. Okay. So you've done it again. So I have to I have to go back to what you said specifically about the downloads because to your point, yes, it can be very odd for us to try to translate or make sense of what is actually happening. But I
Yes.
love what you said because it essentially points right back to this knowing or understanding of oneness. If we keep
Mm-hmm.
hearing about how we're all one, we're connected to all there is, we have access literally to everything, but
Yes.
recognizing that our recognition is a shift in consciousness and frequency. So it's like
Yes.
it's all right here. It's just what lens or frequency we're accessing to be able to view and connect with what is
Yes.
already present. So I love that you point that out because again, it just reemphasizes the whole thing of one. But also, you remind me of this is why I also was or still am. I love studying different cultures and of just different teachings
Mm-hmm.
because they all keep coming back to the same thing. But also,
Yeah.
to your point, it reminds me of that saying that the wisdom is hidden in plain sight. And it is
Indeed.
up to us how much we, on one hand, educate ourselves, have the openness of mind to
Yeah.
even allow for the potential of what we don't understand yet, but then
Yeah.
also learn how then do I give myself the experience of understanding what it is that I could read in a book, right? Because then, just like you, someone else could have watched the exact same thing, nothing. But for you, because of what you have been allowing yourself exposure to and what your soul has called to like remember within your being, now it's like a whole different awareness that
Yes.
comes.
Yes.
So I love this too, Hillis, because it points to our own, like we could go as deep as we want to, but we're the ones that have to show up and actually do the work, so to speak.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, and it points back to, the core of what I do as an Omni Resonance Architect. I create the foundation for people to walk through. I create the foundation, the energy, bring the frequencies for people to do the work.
Yep.
As long as people are open and willing to do the work, I will be of service to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because part of what I am to do is that no matter who shows up, whoever steps in my path for me to be of service to, I will be of service to you to the best of my capacity, to my ability, because it is in that knowing that you have made the choice to step into your space to actually do what you are here to do. You're here to do the work. Yes, we've all been traumatized. We've all been victimized. No one is blaming. No one, we've all experienced something and been the victim of something. So it's in that energy that we begin to think, you know what? I'm ready to remember.
Hmm.
Because we have to remember the victimization, the traumatization, all of it is just the cycle to create the catalyst for the space of remembering.
Ooh. Okay. Well, that brings me to because I want to make sure we, make this clear too, because I think you've created a very clear foundation for us
Yeah,
of, why this is important for us to remember. And what we're actually remembering is this one consciousness, this unity
yeah,
consciousness,
yeah.
and, the brilliance within that. So, but I want to make sure this is more clear, especially when we talk about Lemurian light work. If
Hmm.
anyone is listening is like, okay, so what does it bring into my awareness?
Hmm.
And what does this practice look like? Is it something that you're doing that's similar to people may connect with what looks like Reiki, or is it more meditative? But what is it giving us access to?
So it's different yet similar to Reiki in terms of, with Reiki, there are various lineages. You have the
Yeah.
most common one, which is Usui,
Hmm.
which is the path that I started on. And then when I discovered or found a teacher that was, teaching levels 1, 2, and 3 of Reiki in one thing. I'm like, I don't have to go through levels. I could just do it all in one. Yeah, that's for me. That's my path. Because I don't mind going through the ascension levels,
Yeah.
but when there's something of a grand design, and you feel it in your heart that that's for you,
Yeah.
that's the path you choose.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially, what it brings is more of a galactic resonance. It
Mm.
brings more of an earthly connection, and more of uh, uh, revereness for the planet. It brings a revereness to self, and it assists in connecting to other frequencies, symbols, things that you may not have access to otherwise. Because, people, and the prime example of this here, people often talk about, well, I need EMF protection, or I need protection from this, or I need protection from that.
Mm.
When you raise your vibration high enough, you don't need protection from anything.
Yeah.
Because this is what the energy does. It assists you in raising your frequency, your vibration.
Yeah.
To say, hey, you know, if I get to this level, will I still need protection from this? If I
Mm.
get here, do I, it's like it's this ladder effect. You keep going till you can't go anymore. And right now, and I've been practicing the work that I do for a decade, and I'm still barely scratching the surface of what I can truly do.
Right. Yeah.
And I think anyone who is who has been practicing this for a decade or longer and has mastered their craft and is comfortable. Yes, I love that you have all these amazing people that you assist and teach and guide. But I know that there's more.
Mm.
Looking at the city or the Siddhi masters of India, or looking at the Jedi masters of, yes, and I said Jedi people, of Egypt. They represent the primary forces, and so there's so much more. And this, just like I said, is only allowing me it, to open the door to so much, and allow for me to vibrate at a frequency to where if something is in my space, I can vibrate out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all about raising your frequency. It's more galactic. It's closer to the galactic home, which is Sirius.
Mm-hmm.
It's closer to that resonance. It's closer to that frequency. It's closer to the space of oneness, of really having that feeling. Sometimes we have that feeling of being homesick.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't belong here. Where do I go? And so we have all these moments, but sometimes I feel at home when
Mm-hmm.
I do this work.
That's really beautiful because that's what I was going to ask you. Especially again when we talk about these different types of resonance and frequency, it's coming to mind to say how, like we enter a room where someone's fighting and we feel the energy of that, we feel the tension in the room. Then you may
Hmm.
go to an environment where people are celebrating and having a great time, and you feel like we feel the resonance of that, and it uplifts us in a particular way.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
and then at this level of, let's say, this tuning into these higher frequencies and starting to recognize the resonance of what it is bringing into our remembrance. Can you describe what that has been like as a practitioner in terms of how it may have
Wow.
any changes you've noticed in yourself over these 10 years, whether in your
Wow.
behaviors, like what has it
That's a
changed for you?
loaded question, Yolanda. It's so loaded. And so I can say that, one, witnessing the transformation in the people that I work with, that has really shifted me
Yeah,
in who I am and what I do. It gave me more of a belief and confidence in who I am and what I do.
yeah,
It was, just an example of this is when someone asked me, it's like, hey, do you do soul retrieval? And this was early in my work. And I'm like, soul retrieval. Let me check. Yes, I can do that. Like that hesitant pause. And then when I finally got to do it, I'm like, oh, wait, I actually can do this. But from a vibrational space of speaking about this,
Mm-hmm.
I have, especially in the past 2 to 3 years, with all the energetic shifts, I have become more sensitive.
Yeah.
I was already introverted enough, but I have become more introverted and choose how I spend my time with people.
Yeah.
Because my vibration, my frequency is, guarded to a degree to where if I'm not on the same frequency with you or close to, I'm not dealing with you, you know,
Mm-hmm.
outside of the work that I do.
Yeah.
It's in the space of really understanding what my vibration is, who I am, how I eat, when I eat, how much exercise do I get. Everything has been shifted into mood operating in frequency, or in our cases, to put it simply, emotions.
Mm-hmm.
We operate on emotions. And so, one of the things that teach in the law of vibration is once we learn to master our thoughts, when we learn to master our emotions, we really begin to step into our power. Not saying that you will ever become emotionless, that's almost impossible in this human
Right.
vessel. But it's really becoming, like Spock, so to speak. If anyone knows who Spock is, go to Star Trek, original Star Trek, you guys,
You're
he's,
you're dating us.
uh, hey, but still good TV
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
though.
Yes. But it's a very interesting thing because I've joked about on the show how, you know, and that's one of the things I have noticed how our emotions really can be a driving force to the stories we create and
Yeah.
like get us to grip even more tightly to different attachments. And I remember the first time I felt peace, I had a moment of thinking I broke myself because it was so unfamiliar to me, the feeling of just peace.
Hmm.
And I really sat there for a moment like, is something wrong with me? Like I'm not feeling any kind of drastic emotion, in this space. And then when I realized, like, oh my gosh, this is peace. Like, this, and I had to like laugh at myself. Like, I can't believe it was that unfamiliar that I literally thought I broke myself. But yeah, and it is, these beautiful shifts that create a difference in how we choose, how we create, how we function, how we engage in our relationships. All of these pieces that add to this bigger expression of what it really means to shift in frequency. And
Hmm.
and I'm glad you say this because I think some people think it's just like you're going to have this moment of like pop and then all of a sudden you're like the Buddha instead of realizing there's like these emanations of
Yeah.
who you are that start to just come more to the forefront. But I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you this because a lot of people are curious about you know in your remembering and in your reconnecting even to this information from Lemuria, does that come with any particular guides or do you have like a energetic team that you feel that you're working with or that you remember from another time?
You know, it's there's a lot. I mean, it really depends on the energy that I shift into.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked with the Council of Light. I worked with my dragons, because dragons, were dense around that time.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with, other peers, energetically, from that time. I mean, there's been so much in the past decade of me doing the work that I do. It really stems from me being open and me being really ready to step in because there was a reading that someone did for me from my council and how proud they were of me stepping into this work, stepping into this path. I'm like, yeah, you got this. Yeah, you can do this. I'm like, what? And at the time, I was still new to this. I'm like, okay, thanks for having faith in me, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And so it just is in the space of, going back to what you said a moment ago, having these little emanations. Because just imagine, people want that instant, like I want to do it now. No, because just imagine you sticking a fork in a light socket.
Hmm.
That's what would happen if you got it all now. You
Yeah.
you you wouldn't survive it.
Yeah.
It'd be too much.
Yeah. And I think one thing I've come to appreciate is when we're on these paths, the pacing also gives us the ability to witness the wisdom that is emerging and to help
Yeah.
us understand what even all of this means as we are experiencing it and going through the progression. I wanted to ask you too, side note, I will be asking you after this about the dragons because I hear a lot of people speak of them, but I'm not that familiar with, yeah, or maybe we'll just have you
See?
back. Yeah, I see your dragon tattoo. Yes. We're gonna have you come back. We have so many things to go deeper with what you've shared already. But I wanted to ask you because a lot of people who find themselves drawn to this work or
Mhm.
something is calling them towards, Lemuria or whatever it is that's, feels
Mhm.
resonant with them. I want to make sure that we do share a bit of how this all started for you.
Well, it all started because I had I guess my mental breakdown in 2008.
Mm,
My come to Jesus, woe was me moment. We all have those before Hillis and after Hillis.
yeah.
And so 2008 was for me, after, I was laid off from, a job. I had my own business, which was going well. Then the 2008 financial crisis hit, was losing clients, losing my business, lost my part-time job, on the end of my relationship and potentially on the verge of losing my apartment. I'm like, all this stuff happening at the same time. Like, what is happening?
Can I just tell you the same thing happened to me? It was just 2 years after you, but okay, carry on.
And so it's like all of this. And I'm
Yeah.
like, can I take any more? Can I? And so it's like everything just like weighted down.
Yeah.
And in that space, I really understood what gratitude meant.
Hmm.
And that was the beginning of my journey of really
Yeah.
understanding gratitude and writing about gratitude on a weekly basis, sending out emails to friends and family, writing a blog about gratitude, including in my own personal poetry about my perspectives and observations about gratitude. And I knew that I always had these abilities. And prior to that moment, I've had premonitions as a teenager. I've had shared visions. I've had lucid dreaming. I used to see spirits as a child. So it's all the stuff was the prerequisite to
Hmm.
everything that happened in 2008. And then after that, when I decided to move to New York, I found a school where I learned how to hone my psychic abilities and where I learned that I was clairaudient. So I know I wasn't going crazy about hearing stuff. I would just hear stuff.
Yeah.
And even till this day, with the assistance of plant medicine, my hearing is like, what was that? Did you hear that? So it's like stellar. I love my hearing. And so with me, think, well, okay, I've honed my psychic abilities. There's something more, there's something more, there's something more. And then which took me to Reiki. I'm like, wait, this is good, but there's something more, something more, something more. So I'm always that person that wants the something more.
Hmm.
And in that desire of the something more, I know that I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And in the pursuit of the prophecy of what Yeshua, or Jesus, said that, what I can do is great, but what you can do is even greater. So with that understanding, with that in the end game in mind, it's like, well, if it took him 12 years to learn all of that, damn it, I don't have 12 years. I need an accelerated path for this, And I just started the this accelerated version of my path. Well, not accelerated version, but this innate knowing that I can do more with this body than just, channel energy to be of service to everyone else. channel energy to help me for my own personal stuff. You know, I can help make this body levitate. What? So it's all these things, these nuances that I want to try and learn. But yeah, it can be daunting. It can be tiring because we're in this collective space of, we got to have a living. And so there's this balance and understanding of, well, how am I going to make it work? How am I going to get to my end game? How am I going to? So it's like, and sometimes you just have to surrender. And I've surrendered a lot,
Yeah.
on this path. I've given up a lot. And I think that's part of the process.
You, let me tell you, Hillis, it resonates so deeply with what you just shared, but especially at the beginning, because I literally the same. I worked for a finance company, went through a layoff 2010, all of the things. And that's what was the, catalyst into all of this. And, but the same deep gratitude. And it's interesting now looking back, hindsight, where feeling like literally everything is being stripped away. But what really
Hmm.
highlighted was this, I'm talking
Hmm.
gratitude that is just like
I
felt in
feel it.
such a way that you can't even put it into words. It's not just this like, oh, I'm thankful for it. No, it's
So
next level.
to put it into words and context for people,
Yeah.
because I understand what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've ever had the most scrumptious, delicious, satisfying dessert or meal, that's the kind of gratitude we're talking about here, people.
Listen, you speak it right because I am a foodie. Okay. Dessert. I'm the one that orders dessert first. Yes. No, but it's true. I mean, it is really interesting. Again, these different experiences that will, in what might seem challenging for us, what they're really revealing to us, and
Mhm.
how all of it is playing a part in this shift in frequency. But
Exactly, because it's like what I said earlier. We've been victimized, we've been traumatized, but they're all catalysts to where we are now.
right. Well, I have to ask you about this because I know we only have like 15 minutes left and we still have quite a bit to cover.
We can go as long as you need to. I'm not
Okay.
shy about it. Look, I can talk all day.
I love talking to you too. So, I do want to ask you about light language
Yes.
because this is something I've heard about in this
Hmm.
arena. I've also heard some people speak in, what they
Hmm.
call light language, but um, I don't really know what it is. So I would love, from your experience, could you talk a little bit about how this even came on your radar, your experience with it, and how it ties into your work?
So with Reiki, when you get to level two, that's when you begin to get the symbols, right?
Mhm.
So this is when you get to utilize symbols and runes and things of that nature for you to assist in your work. So with Lemurian light energy, with the Sirian energy, you get those when you get your attunement,
Okay.
after we go through the process. So that's just one big thing,
Yeah.
to put it simply. And so that's, was my experience with light language. I've heard it before. And when I first heard it, it sounded like someone was speaking a blend of French, Portuguese, Mandarin. Like, what are you saying? It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. But I was enthralled by it. And so when I got my attunement, I'm like, and I received the symbols and then my own personal symbol for me to activate the energy in what I received. Then I began to understand, this is light language. These are not just symbols, but these are frequencies.
Hmm.
And these are tuning instruments to be of service to other people. And each symbol had a specific frequency, vibration, and meaning. So when I'm not like most practitioners that tune in and just begin to speak
Hmm.
what I call galactic language because this is what it is. And the reason how it came to me to be known as galactic language is when I was actually doing a session for a client and I saw this symbol in my head. And it reminded me of something that I saw when I was in sixth grade, because in sixth grade I was learning Chinese characters.
Hmm.
And it was like, okay, this is interesting. So I drew this for her and I said, do you know what this means? She's like, yes. I'm like, okay, good, as long as you know. And so that was my interaction with it. And then when I began to see other symbols and other drawings that other people were doing and how they were accessing the halls of knowledge to get this information, because that's where this is from, it's from the halls of knowledge. And I was like, okay, I understand it now because, in Mu, because in the book that James Churchill wrote, talked about these symbols and the importance of these sacred symbols. And then I looked at Chinese characters. Then I was listening to the enunciation of the words. And then I would step into some of the Portuguese and some of the French. And I'm like, it all sounds similar, especially if you begin to hear someone speak galactic language. It's also from Egyptian tongue. This is what the priestess and high priestess would utilize to connect to these frequencies. And I know this because I stepped into the halls of knowledge to receive this. And essentially, what brought it all together was for me personally, is that I used to do a show every Friday with the co-host. I love her so much. We would do a Friday night tune-up, and we would do collective healing for people who would come to the show. And we would do it together in tandem, do our thing. But then one episode, everything shifted and changed. She did her sound, and I was like, I just understood what you said. She's like, which is, the reason why my clairaudient has gotten better.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean you just understood? It's like, I understood. I want to translate what you said. It's like, okay. So I began to translate what she said. Mm-hmm. So I don't speak galactic language. I use it in my work. But in order for me to speak it, I have to understand here, right, and hear what it means.
Yes.
So I can articulate it in a way that's best utilized. Granted, I'm not saying that anyone that does speak it, that they don't know what it means, because in essence, it's a frequency.
Yeah.
But I translate it into words, into a vibration that we can understand. Yeah, which reminds me, I got to finish working on my project symbols to bring to the masses.
Well, I'm glad you explained that. And it's interesting because I literally just was saying in one of my classes yesterday, because I channel in class and I'm also clairaudient. Mm-hmm. For me, it almost feels like telepathy in a way. Yeah. But I was saying how, in the background, even though I don't necessarily know exactly what's going to come through in class, I have a clear kind of agreement that I have to go through whatever's going to come through me so that I understand it. Like you said, like I have to understand it or have at least, the experience of it to feel comfortable that, I'm not asking you to walk into something that I haven't done or wouldn't do myself. So right. I completely understand what you're saying.
It's almost like there's another version of you. It's like you are here in the foreground. Yeah. And then there's this other version of it's like this filter. It's like you get it. Let me filter it, translate it, and then, it's that process.
Yeah. Listen, we got some stuff to talk about. But I want to ask you two things from what you said, because I know the people listening will probably screaming at me if I don't ask you. So one, is this hall of knowledge, is this similar to the Akashic records? And also you mentioned an attunement. So I just want to be very clear. You teach this Lemurian light work. And
yes, so I'm one of two teachers on the planet.
So, and it does include then an attunement. There are symbols and could you tell us a little bit about so people understand?
So the attunement is double duty, if you will. This is anywhere from a 6 to 8 month process, depending on how fast you move through it. Sometimes a little longer, just really depends, because in order to move through this, you have to understand how the energy works on you. Yeah. So we go through the clearing. We clear our inner child, adolescence, adult, all residual energy, all shame, pain, guilt, trauma, victimization. We clear all that out. Mm-hmm. We clear it out from your body, from your energy fields, from your energy systems, everything. And so it goes in tandem with the classes. And so with the classes, we tend to have them, teach them about the seven layers or the seven planes, the chakras. So all the basics,
Yeah.
of the meridian system teach you about the all aspects, all the planes which you connect to. So when you have the session, get the class, everything is in tandem, so you work together. So finally, when everything is cleared, when we go through all the lessons, then you receive the attunement. And then the attunement is where you then begin to embody this and practice its energy on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Oh,
It's just like any other attunement. I mean,
yeah.
is the only difference is you go to a special place,
Yeah.
guide you to guide you back home to receive this energy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes all the sense in the world. And I really love that there's preparation to really
Oh
support
yeah.
people in holding this new level of frequency.
Yeah, because if you don't, and I've experienced this, if you are not prepared, and I know this for me,
Hmm.
especially if I have too much sugar, my
Yeah.
kidney meridian acts up. I'm more sensitive to frequencies in my body now, and I have actually blown out a couple of my meridians.
Hmm.
I'm like, how do I fix that? How do I
Yeah.
fix that? And so, but you get the skills of knowing how to fix certain things in your body.
Yeah.
And so it's just in this resonance of really knowing of that. And then two, to answer your question about the halls of knowledge.
Wait, wait, wait. I want to ask you one more thing about this. So
Okay, okay, okay.
are there levels to the process or the actual work throughout these 6, 7 months? It's like all encompassing. Like
It's
you're
all encompassing.
okay,
It's all encompassing.
got
Though
it.
I will say that my teacher is working on a level two, which is more so about the brain stuff.
Hmm.
But it's him and I love him, but we're the same but different
Yeah.
because he's more vocal and in your face about stuff, but I'm more gentle and really and go in deep.
Yes.
It's like, the Kundalini is just sleeping. But then once I arrive, everything kind of like, oh, that whole gentle awareness.
Yeah.
Because he's doing something similar, because I'm also, well, he's not doing this, but I'm creating the Omni Order, which is, the coming together of different cultures into one, and that in itself is what I feel is the level two for that I am creating, that's similar but different from his. So, I mean, but in all honesty, it is in the space of vibrational frequency that you allow yourself to receive.
Right.
Because, whether you are aware of the different aspects of the brain, the hemispheres, the amygdala, clearing the fears, clearing this out, clearing that out, eventually we'll all get there.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of how fast you choose to go,
Right.
to receive that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, all paths point back to the one. But this is
exactly.
good. I'm glad that you are clarifying that. So go ahead now. This hall of knowledge. Tell
So
us about that.
someone asked me about this the other day and how I saw it to be. So we often talk about the Akashic records, right?
Mhm.
So just imagine a library the size of a planet, probably the size of Jupiter, probably the size of the sun Betelgeuse, just to put things into perspective,
Yeah.
okay? You have a planetary sized library filled with energetic records, whether it's crystals or books, whatever, whatever representation you want to put in there.
Yeah.
And a small section of this hall of records is the Akashic records,
Hmm.
meaning that however form the energy is formed, you have access to information about other people, to other people's soul.
Yeah.
The rest of this is galactic information.
Now I'm laughing because there's someone I'll tell you about her after this, but someone who's very close to me, she has been working in the Akashic records for years. That's, she teaches it and da da da.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
more recently, she's been getting this thing about the galactic records. So anyway, we'll talk about this later. But
Yeah, but
yeah,
the thing is, so it was before Hillis, not after Hillis, but before
yes.
Hillis. when I knew there was something more than the Akashic records. This has always been in my energetic field.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Akashic records, because the Akashic records is also energy that's contained within your DNA.
Um,
Galactic records, you need permission to access.
that makes sense.
Because I mean, just imagine, because so put it this way as well. So you have the Syrians who pass this information on to the Dogon tribe, right? Galactic wisdom, galactic information. So they were given, granted permission to be the wisdom keepers.
Mhm.
You know, and someone asked me the other day, not the other day, but maybe about a couple of months ago, they asked me, so Hillis, are you a warrior or a keeper? I'm like, I'm a wisdom keeper. I share truth and knowledge,
Mhm.
but I'm a warrior if I need be.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, if I had a library, the things that I would fill my library with would be like, what, what do you have?
Oh, what are
It's
you
like,
saying? I've run out of bookshelf space, and that's my dream. Like, I just need a library in my home. Like, it would be my happiest place. But so I just want to say, even with what you said about accessing the galactic records or in this hall of knowledge, it sounds like too, it ties back into this level of frequency. And again, like
yeah.
how deep we're willing to go in that.
Not only frequency, but like I say, you do have to be granted access to because you can so like I say, you can visit this planetary sized place,
Mhm.
and you can go to the Akashic records. Anyone
Yeah.
that's on this planet, all 8 billion of us can go to the Akashic records because we have the key within us.
Yeah.
But to access the other information, you have to have special permission. You have to have been granted access.
Yeah. I understand.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I want to talk about because you really do, I know you are very passionate about this. And like you said, you're going to create other resources where people can learn about this
Mm.
work and this remembrance for us collectively. And one of the things is I don't know what to ask you about first. Let's start with the Substack because people
Yeah.
can, yeah, let's start with that before we get to the events. You do have a Substack, and we'll put the
Yes.
link for that, of course, in the show description. Can you just share what it is that we can learn or have access to content wise there?
Well, I started writing back in 2008 about my own gratitude journey. So you guys can go to my website to view that.
Hmm.
But my Substack, I think, well, how else can I reach people? How else can I really engage with people in a different way? And I started my Substack called Omni Inquiry.
Hmm.
And I have a book of questions. And actually, it's the same as my short series that I've been doing. I've taken a couple of weeks off, but it's called Being Omni. So they're tied together. So I have a little book to where I ask the universe questions.
Mm.
And as I receive them, I either do a video or I write it on my Substack. And so this is just information that I receive, wisdom that I receive to help people have a different perspective about universal wisdom. And in that space, and actually, I'm so excited, I'm going to be starting either next week, I think next week, this 7-part series of We Are the One, going through different aspects and helping people understand that you are God in all of this. And the greater scheme of life and understanding, you know, sometimes the most insignificant thing, like a fly, we all hate flies, but they all have a purpose and they are also a God. So it's in that space of really understanding what this is.
Yeah. Well, that's good because I think, especially nowadays in this information age, we do need more access and resources to different quality of information. So it's always exciting to hear when people who are very dedicated to their work and their practice and their understanding, like
Yes.
doing the work, are sharing resources with us. So
Mhm.
speaking of you sharing, you have some upcoming events in October and November. So luckily, this is going to be posted in time that some people can hear and possibly come and hear you lecture in person. So could you tell us what you have coming up?
So in no in October 4th, you guys can find the details in the link. It's more I will be speaking, but it's more in a loose fashion. I will be at a networking event for healers for this platform called Healerverse. Love Trish. She's
Mhm.
amazing at bringing all of us together. But this will be in Delray Beach, Florida. So if you're in the Florida area, drive on over. There is tickets. Tickets are $99, but it will be from 10 to 6, where you get to hear all the healers from Healerverse, including myself, speak, network, and connect to like-minded individuals and souls. And also, too, in November, I will be back out in the Lauderdale area at the One Hand. Oh, geez. Yeah, One Hand doing 2 days. First day, I will be doing my signature workshop seminar, which is called Vibrate to Love, which is a 4 hour half day seminar to where I will be teaching about the symbiotic relationship between gratitude and the law of vibration. I usually only do these in person or live online. I don't have any recordings of these because it's special and unique for those who show up.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the following day, I think that's November 16th or the 15th, and then the following day, I will be doing the happy hour healing also at One Hand, which is an hour-ish long event. Information for that is not available yet, so please stay tuned to my link so that way you guys know when those sales will be available for you.
Perfect. Listen, Hillis, I am so glad that we had this conversation. I know you and I are going to.
Always.
We're good. There, I'll see you again. I'll see you again. But I
Just
just
make
want
me a resident on your show. I'll be here whenever
I
you.
know that, yes. And actually, to that point, we did touch on some very interesting things. And so, for anyone listening, if there was any part of this where you wish we would have gone deeper or you want to, ask some more questions of Hillis, just send an email or put a message underneath this episode so we'll know when we come back around exactly what you would love some clarity on. And you can learn more about Hillis and his work. Of course, I'm putting the links down in the show description. His website is hillispugh.com, but everything will be down. Yes, you can see the name if you're watching the video, HILLISPUGH.com. And I just want to thank you so much again for sharing
Mm,
with us today.
thank you. Thank you so much, Yolanda. So beautiful.
This was good. All right, we will see you soon. Okay, beautiful alchemist. I want to thank Hillis, first of all, for taking the time to share his work with us. And don't forget, you can learn more about Hillis and his work at his website, hillispugh.com. The link, of course, is down in the show description, including the link to a free offer that he has given us as listeners. So I will put the link for that down in the show description as well. It is a 30-minute energy session done either by phone or remotely. And it is deep discount on this. Yeah. So anyway, click the link below to see if you want to work with Hillis and have an energy session with him to see what this work is about. Also, don't forget, if you are in Florida, you can go see Hillis on Saturday, October 4th at Delray Beach. He will be giving a lecture. And in November, he will be in Fort Lauderdale for a 2-day event as well. So lots of ways to connect with Hillis. All of the links are down in the show description. And if you have any questions that you would like me to explore more with him in conversation, be sure to send those messages to me so we can have him back for a round 2. That aside, my loves, I just want to remind you again that the Alchemy Circle is starting in, technically it's 2026 membership, but the classes start in November. And so if you want to join me for Intuitive Mastery and be a part of Alchemy Circle for the year of 2026, be sure to register for the Alchemy Circle right away, and you will have automatic access into Intuitive Mastery that starts in November this year. So I look forward to connecting with you, working with you. You can learn more on my website, theenergeticalchemist.com. I will see you all very soon, and remember to always journey in love.